All right, so at the weekend, we saw Ilia Topuria knock out Charles Oliveira in stunning fashion, lived up to the hype, did what he said he was going to do. Of course, he was celebrating in the restaurant and he just looked like a mere formality. He jabbed into the body, jabbed into the face, stepped back out of range, clean 1-2, knocked him out cold, follows up with a left hook. Oliveira's out, unconscious, eyes are still open, couple more hammer fists just to get the job done, just to seal the victory, just to make it extra vicious and to remind the world that this man is the real deal. By the way, the jabs of Ilia Topuria, like everything that he throws, the power that he has is unreal. He commits to every single shot. He's so unbalanced. He has great footwork, great speed, and of course, he jabbed to the body. Then he came upstairs, and that was all to set up the big right hand. The boxing is phenomenal. The grappling is phenomenal. The takedown defense that he showed, the leg lock defense, and of course, we know about the boxing as well. So, he is the undisputed champion in the lightweight division. He was the undisputed champion of the featherweight division, and he might be the guy to go on and eventually be the first ever person to become a 3-weight division champion.
I will beat him and get the third title. That will be the best scenario for me.
And of course, that all depends what happens down the line. If Islam can beat Jack Della Maddalena, if Ilia Topuria defends the belt a couple of times at lightweight and maybe does it 3 times and then moves up to welterweight, we might see that. And also, if Islam Makhachev loses to Jack Della Maddalena, that's not a given. Jack will be a problem for him, okay? He will try and beat him the same way that he beat Bilal Muhammad, and he just might do that. And then Islam would come back down to 155, and of course, Ilia said he's going to have to beat someone first. He's going to have to prove himself, and I don't blame him. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If that's the type of warfare that Islam used against him and Team Habib, but like he has to prove himself, brother. At 155, I would say the same thing. I'm not fighting you for the belt when you're coming off a loss, but Islam versus Ilia might just be the biggest fight that they can put on in all of combat sports, or the biggest fight right now that they could potentially make is the one that we saw on Saturday night, not announced but kind of alluded to, where Paddy Pimblett walked into the octagon. They got in each other's faces. We had the square off. We had the shit talk. We saw Ilia lose his cool for just a second. He pushed him. He allowed Paddy to get into his head. He had the 2 belts on his shoulder. He gave him the push. The belts almost fell off his shoulders. Ilia Topuria is one of the smoothest people, one of the smoothest fighters in the ring and outside the ring that we're likely to see. The least smooth thing that he did was push Paddy Pimblett because the belts almost fell off and all the rest of it, but it just shows Paddy's ability to get under people's skin. Now, it seemed like that fight was definitely on the books. It was going to happen.
We've got history. You don't even need to sell that fight. It sells itself. 2 people who genuinely dislike each other. You don't really get that. We haven't seen that since Khabib and McGregor. Right. 2 people who actually hate each other, because I hate him. I wouldn't even want to finish him fast. I'd want to finish him with a minute left in the fight after I've elbowed him 700 times.
They have squared off in the octagon, just like Joshua Van did versus Alejandro Pantoja. However, Dana White confirmed at the post-fight press, well, hold on a minute. We'd already said whoever won the fight between Royval and Joshua Van, they were the next #1 contender.
Obviously, it's the fight to make right now.
That was agreed, but it wasn't agreed in the lightweight division. And Dana kind of said, hold on, pump the brakes a little bit when it comes to Paddy Pimblett versus Ilia Topuria. I think the fight makes sense, okay? And obviously the appetite for the fight is going to be there. And now, of course, they do have history. They have the hand sanitizer incidents and all the rest of it. And now they've got the square off inside the octagon, okay? It makes all the sense in the world, but there is other people out there. There is Justin Gaethje, who said that he's going to retire if he doesn't get a title fight.
I'm waiting for the winner of Ilia and Charles. They fight next.
And if anyone said he doesn't deserve it, and he said, I'm not going to fight for the title, I'm just going to hang up my gloves.
Dana White kind of shut that down and said, you know how I feel about that. They don't like fighters making ultimatums. And of course, he said, if you're thinking about retirement, maybe you might want to go ahead and do that.
Listen, if you're thinking about retiring, you know how I feel about that. You should probably retire.
That's certainly a sign that Justin Gaethje, that he wants the possibility of becoming a champion again in what is probably the final year or 2 of his legendary career. But of course, there's Arman Tsarukyan as well. Now, Arman Tsarukyan was the backup fighter for this fight at the weekend. He made weight, he walked out, he showed that he's dependable, he shows that he's professional, he showed that he can make weight, and he also showed that he's motivated. Of course, Arman Tsarukyan comes from a very wealthy family, so he doesn't doesn't necessarily have the same motivation some might think. But much like Jake Paul, who's already a rich man, okay, that's not what Jake Paul is doing. He's just trying to prove to all his Disney crowd, okay, that he's a tough guy, that he's a bad man, and he's going to take on all these guys, right? His opponent last night looked like shit, but Jake Paul got the job done once again, okay? He doesn't want to fight the best people, but Arman Tsarukyan does. We've seen videos of him eating the caviar, like $1,000 worth of caviar in every spoon that he put in his mouth. We've seen him driving around in the Rolls Royces, and he's got private jets and all the rest of it, but he still wants to fight, and he is very, very good. And he wanted to get a rematch with Islam. Of course, he fought Islam once before, had a good match, took him on short notice and pushed him to the limit and lost a decision. But Arman Tsarukyan, Dana said it, he's not next in line. Yes, making weight was a good step in the right direction, but it's not guaranteed that it's going to be him.
Now that he's not fighting for the title, he was here as a backup fighter. He made weight, so it's definitely a step in the right direction.
And it's not guaranteed that it's going to be Paddy Pimblett. Now, I do think that right now, the biggest fight that the UFC could put on is Islam versus Ilia. But that isn't going to happen. That's just a fact. He's fighting Jack Della Maddalena, as we know. So the biggest fight that they can put on right now, and remember, Madison Square Garden, which is in November, which is just around the corner. And that's crazy to say because this year is absolutely flying by. Seems to happen as you're getting older, kids. I'm telling you, enjoy your lives while you can. 75 summers, as Eddie Murphy famously once said, is all we get.
75 years. That's how much time you get if you're lucky. 75 years. 75 winters, 75 springtimes, 75 summers, and 75 autumns. When you look at it like that, it's not a lot of time, is it? Don't waste them. Get your head out of the rat race and forget about the superficial things that preoccupy your existence and get back to what's important now. Right now, this very second.
When you put it like that, it doesn't sound like much, but before we know it, it's going to be November. We did think we were going to get John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. That's not happening. We know John Jones has walked away from the sport, okay? And that is a shame. And maybe he's going to wait and see who wins between Tom and Cyril Gane. And maybe he comes out of retirement. If he does that, it will be a further stain to his legacy. That's just a fact. So they need a big match at Madison Square Garden, okay? They can't have some average matchup. Of course, all title fights are special, but we thought it was going to be Tom versus John for the biggest heavyweight fight that the sport's ever seen. Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya, or Pereira versus Yuri Prohaska. But Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev, that's probably going to go down in October in Abu Dhabi. So Ilia Topuria, the lightweight champion of the world, the former featherweight champion of the world, and the sport's best chance of a three-weight champion that just destroyed Oliveira. I think he fights Paddy Pimblett, Madison Square Garden, and that's one of the biggest fights right now that the sport can put on. In fact, outside of Islam, it is simple as that. Paddy Pimblett moves the needle. Saturday night, when they showed all the celebrities, when they showed the fighters in the crowd, he got the biggest pop by far. Lucas, my son, he has a girlfriend. She's 14 years old. When I met her, she said, do you know Paddy Pimblett? Right? Didn't ask about John Jones, didn't ask about Alex Pereira, Conor McGregor, or anyone like that. Conor McGregor at this stage, he's old news. Paddy Pimblett is current, and he resonates with the younger crowd, and it resonates with everyone, because when they showed him on camera, the place went mental, okay? He is popular. He just beat Michael Chandler. He's undefeated in the UFC. He's got the history with Ilia Topuria, and that's the fight that they got to make. Now, I don't know if it is going to happen. It might do. It might do. Dana didn't like the fact that Ilia's wife and his child was in the octagon, because you never know. It's a security risk. Those two don't like each other.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And I don't really think about that stuff tonight, other than, obviously the Van fight. But, we'll see. We'll see how this plays out.
We have seen madness kick off in the past. Like, look at Khabib and Conor McGregor. What happened at UFC 229? All out, utter madness, okay? And then on top of that, that was Ilia's moment. He just became a two-weight division champion. He joined a very exclusive club. Only 10 people have been able to do that. He should have been given his moment to just soak it all in, to have a long interview and just it be all about him. However, Paddy was able to storm the gates, jump over the line. Security let him in. Dana didn't like that, but security let him in, and it made for a great, sensational, viral moment. And when it comes to promoting the fight, we are going to see that. And it shows that Paddy Pimblett gets under the skin of Ilia Topuria. Ilia's cool. He's calm. He's composed. He's collected. He doesn't lose his cool unless Paddy Pimblett's in his face saying, lads,
I'm a Scouser. We don't get knocked out. I take that
all day.
Right, but we know Scousers can get knocked out. We saw Masvidal knock out Darren Till, and we saw Ilia Topuria knock out Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, and Charles Oliveira all on the bounce. 3 in a row, consecutive knockouts. The man's a finishing machine. Can Paddy take those kind of shots? I don't know. Can Paddy take him down? I don't know. Can Paddy hang on the ground? Can Paddy submit him on the ground? I don't know about that either. But guess what? All those questions will be answered when they fight at Madison Square Garden. You can bet your bottom dollar on it. I almost guarantee, because I don't know. Who knows what the UFC has planned? Maybe they got some surprise up their sleeve. But I can 99.999% say Paddy Pimblett, Ilia Topuria, they will be fighting at Madison Square Garden. And let's finish off this video by once again just talking about Ilia Topuria. We've never seen anyone go on this kind of run. Yes, Conor McGregor, when he was coming up at 145 pounds, captured the minds, the spirits, the imaginations of the fan base. He went on quite the tear, and he knocked out Jose Aldo in 12 seconds. Then he knocked out Eddie Alvarez, but that was only 2 fights of real championship caliber fights. Then he fought Khabib Nurmagomedov and lost. Yes, he had the big money fight with Floyd Mayweather, made himself a very, very wealthy man. Fair play. But we haven't seen this. There's never been a rise quite like this where he's knocking out these kind of greats. Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski, some of the greatest of all time, and did it in successive fashion. So anyway, well done to Ilia Topuria. I couldn't be a bigger fan of this. Well done to Ilia Topuria. I couldn't be a bigger fan of this man, and I couldn't be a bigger fan of the fight between Paddy versus Ilia, because I want to see that. Let me know what you think will happen in the comment section. Who would win that fight hypothetically if it does go down? Thank you for watching. Subscribe and ring the bell. You know what to do. See you soon.